According to this new report by Better Dwelling posted on March 4th, 2024, which is today at about 5:15 p.m., about an hour before this video will go live, the Bank of Canada to delay rate cut talks as economy surprises the National Bank of Canada financials. So what does that mean for you as a buyer? Well, for Calgary, it's somewhat of a good thing because the higher interest rates will hopefully slow down this market, but as we're going to see, we're probably not seeing a slowdown anytime soon. The detached price for a home here in Calgary is $721,300, an increase of $19,000 from last month. In the last 30 days, what I've been finding myself doing, which I actually quite enjoy, is looking at the under ask, over ask, and the at ask price. You can see under ask price in the last 30 days was 356 sales. When we look at this chart here, you can see quite a bit of them were over $1 million. The way that this chart is broken down is just based off date. And you can even see the top, let's say roughly 10 have been from today. You can see a price point from about 1.3 all the way down to $699. On the left column, you see the list price. On the right column, you can see the close price or how much. And then the column after that, you can see the percentage that they actually got off ask. You can see all the way down here, that line, I actually don't know the line, but you can see that this is a 91% right here, going from 0.3 to 0.2. Not a lot of people are in that market, but it is nice to see that there is still some movement under ask. There was 81 properties in the last 30 days that sold at ask price. You can see quite a few of them were fairly fast on the market if you look at the days on market. It's still kind of hovering around that, you know, you can see some 600s, some 500s, and then some $1 million product there. And then in the last 30 days, 417 sold over ask price, meaning that the majority of the sales were over ask price. If you look at the days on market, this is not organized by the days on market, but you can see just how fast the market is moving. Okay, I really want to make this very clear. There is a lot of unconditional offers going right now. It's very unfortunate to see. If you look at the price points, you look at the percentages, you look at the communities, you look at the years built, the total bedrooms, the square footage, and then if it has a finished basement or not, you can see that it is a very fast moving market. I don't know the exact percentage here, but just based off of this chart, I would say the majority of sales in just the past 3 days have been unconditional. I don't like unconditional offers. I don't like them at all. I think that it is not very favorable for the buyer, but unfortunately, in this market, it is needed to win product. If you start to look at these numbers, it's very, very intense. The Calgary real estate market in February is not slowing down anytime soon. So with that being said, like I mentioned before, $721,300 is the new benchmark price for the Calgary real estate market. Now, let's remember that there's attributes, okay? We want to make sure that we touch on this every single month. For $721,000, you will get on average a 3-bedroom up, 1 bedroom down. You've got a 2 full baths, 1 half bath. You've got a double attached garage. The square footage above grade is about 1,500. Your lot size is about 5,000. You have a poured concrete foundation, and it was built in 1998. Now, these benchmark attributes will change for every single quadrant and every single community. So just make sure that you realize that if you're looking at benchmark attributes, or sorry, the benchmark price, you look at the attributes to overlay that. So here's what the Calgary Real Estate Board has written about this market. If you want to read it on your own, that's fine. Pause the video, give it a read, but you can listen to my storytelling. In February, there was almost 1,200 new listings came to the market, of which 75% of those were priced over $600,000. While new listings did improve over last month in line with seasonal expectations, levels are still below typical levels for February. At the same time, sales in February rose to 954 units, a year-over-year gain of 20%. The growth in sales was driven by where we saw listings growth. But with a sales to new listing ratio of nearly 80%, inventory levels were near record lows for February. Okay, Kreb, I don't know what's going on here, but you need to proofread a lot of your stuff. There's quite a bit of mistakes in these reports. Exceptionally tight market conditions drove further price growth. In February, the unadjusted detached benchmark price rose to $721,000, nearly 3% higher than last month and over 13% higher than last year's. Prices rose across all districts, with the Northeast and the East districts seeing the biggest growth, meaning that, because they're probably the most affordable in the entire city. So a lot of people are flocking there. Now, this chart is absolutely wild. I was fairly blown away when I first saw this chart, to be honest with you. We hit a ceiling last year. Right in August, we kind of hit that ceiling. November, we saw a little bit of an uptick. December, obviously, we saw a little bit of a downtick. January kind of hit that ceiling again. Now February, we've just completely set new ground. We have achieved $720,000 for our benchmark price. You can see just how tight the sales and inventory is. If you look at May of last year, you can see where we were neck and neck. And I was actually quite nervous. And if you look back at the June market report, you'll see that I talk about this. It was pretty intense. I thought that the summer was going to absolutely take off. And then in July, August, September, you can just see how much inventory there was compared to sales. So having this high of sales already in the year and this low of inventory is pretty intense. If you look at February of last year, you can see just the gap. You can see that we had over 1,200 units left over. This year we have just over 1,000. So it's going to be a pretty hot market. So this chart here is the exact same numbers, just in a numerical view rather than a visual chart. You can see that the sales was 954. New listings was almost 1,200. Inventory or leftover homes at the end of the month was about 1,000. The days on market was 25, it's a very hot market. You can see that the last time I saw 25 was in September. The benchmark price was 721. The median price, or kind of that middle price, was 710. The average price was 777, which is closely inching that 8. And then the index, I don't like the index. It's basically an overlay of 2005 prices and what it's gained, I think, since 2005. It's kind of a weird thing. They'll probably remove that. So when we start to look at the sales, we've increased from last year, but the new listings were pretty much on par with what we saw last year. If we look at the inventory, there was a lot less homes left over at the end of the month compared to last year, about 200 homes compared to last year. I would argue that with this in mind, again, I say this every single month, we're probably going to see a lot more increases in this market, the detached market especially when you start to look at how many unconditionals were placed in the last 4 days, if we look at the beginning chart there. So this is kind of cool. I'll touch on this a little bit more often. This is the total sales. This is the total sales volume. You can see that we've almost hit 1.3 billion in the detached market alone. That is a 41% increase from last year. Okay, the new listings, we saw a year-to-date increase. So we saw a 6% increase, which is great. The inventory has dropped, which is fairly expected. Months of supply is down to 1.2, which is a very hot seller's market. Sales to new listing ratio is up to almost 80%. Sales to list price ratio is over 100%, meaning that the majority of homes listed are selling over ask price. The days on market has dropped down to 29 days, which is a pretty intense market. You can see that the benchmark price is 711, the median, and then the average price. Now let's remember that this is a year to date. So our previous chart showed 25 days on market, where this days on market for the year to date is 29. So it's a little bit of a weird metric there. So you're going to see some discrepancies. So just remember that the year to date is going to be a little bit different than the actual month. If you have questions about that, go ahead and email me. This is a chart for the inventory. This is pretty self-explanatory. You can see that we have greatly dropped. I would imagine that 2024 is going to be a hotter year than 2023, even though last year was a very hot market. You can see that we're trending down. I would imagine we're going to stay down. Now, last in the total residential report, I mentioned that 2025 we could see an uptick in inventory, and I really hope we do. When all of the people kind of went into the market in 2021 and 2020 and 2021, they had very low interest rates. And a lot of those low interest rates are up for renewal. My own personal interest rate, my mortgage is up for renewal in 2025. So I would imagine that more people are probably going to renew because of this high interest rate environment. They're probably going to see a shock in a sense of how much their mortgage increases if they did not pay down any additional principal. If anyone knows anything about mortgages, the first, let's say 5 to 10 years is very heavy in the interest payment. It is very important that you pay down your principal as much as you can every single year in the first 10 years to try and offset these crazy payment increases as the interest rate increases. So with that being said, let's kind of look at the months of supply for each individual quadrant. So this is a nice lovely chart here, showcases every single quadrant. You can see that the city center is above a month and a half. City center is huge, there's a lot of inventory there, but it's still at a month and a half, which is still technically a seller's market, more closer to a balance, but definitely a seller's. You can see places like Calgary Southeast as well as Northwest and East have the lowest amount of months of supply, meaning it's very fast moving, where everything else is hovering around 1 month. So very, very busy market all across the city. So this is the benchmark price. This is quite interesting. So when you look at this, you get a clear indicator of what the more expensive quadrants are in the city. So you can see obviously city center and west are the most expensive. But when you look at places like northeast as well as east, you can see that they're the cheapest, right, in the entire city. But it's very important to put over those attributes like I've talked about before many times, and this is the whole chart. But we're gonna concentrate on the northeast and the east. So for the prices that you get, the benchmark price set, these are the attributes that are overlaid on that. So in northeast Calgary, you get a 3-bed up, 1 bed down with a totally finished basement, where in East Calgary it's 3-bed up, no beds down, but it's still a fully finished basement. In Northeast Calgary, you get, oh, sorry, I said that wrong. There is a bedroom in the basement. Sorry, I was looking at half baths. For Northeast, you get a 3-bed up, 1 bed down, just like East Calgary. For both of them, you have 2 full bathrooms, where East Calgary does not have that half bath. And that's kind of where I got the confusion from. Apologies, I try to record these in one take, so when I make mistakes, I have to fess up and explain why I made that mistake. When you look at the Northeast, I think the biggest difference here, Northeast has an attached double car garage. East Calgary has a detached double car garage, okay? Huge difference there, and there's a very large, what would you call, premium for an attached over a detached. The Northeast has a 1,200 square foot, where the East has an 1,100 square foot. The Northeast only has a 4,100 square foot lot, where East Calgary has a bigger lot of 5,000 square foot. Northeast does have a poured concrete, just like East, as well as a 1985 build, where East only has a 1972. So when we go back to this chart here, you can see that the pricing is different, right? But when you start to mend the attributes together, or if you try to put the premiums of one over the other, you can start to see that there's a large difference between the two communities. So you want to make sure that when you are looking at the 2 different quadrants, you are putting those attributes into play and doing CMAs in those areas to get the comparable property prices. So this is the year-over-year chart. You can see that Northeast and East saw the biggest growth, with East Calgary seeing a 25% increase year over year, while Northeast saw a 15, or probably about 19%. Everywhere else is hovering around that 12%, which is still a very large increase from last year. So if you're curious of what your home is worth, thank you so much for everyone who's actually put their personal information in and trusted me to provide them with information. There's been a lot of people that have reached out via this portal that gives them an instant home evaluation, and I haven't been able to call them. And I appreciate you for even trusting me to give this fast, instant home evaluation that will change every single month. So if you're curious about that, go ahead, put the link in, put your personal information in. It's super cool. I'll call you, I'll introduce myself, and we'll go from there. So a lot of people are waiting for this. This is the microeconomic breakdown for each individual quadrant in the entire city. So we've got the sales, we've got the new listings, and we've got the sales to new listings ratio. You can see that the highest was Southeast, seeing the highest sales to new listing ratio of about 90%. Everywhere else is hovering around that 80%, right? You even look at East with how little sales and how little new listings they get, they're still upwards of 82%. So the inventory here is just the amount of leftover homes at the end of the month. You can see that we're all hovering around about 150-ish, give or take. It's a very, very hot market, and these are very low numbers for a city as size of ours. You can see the months of supply here. Some places like Calgary Northwest, Southeast, and East are all under 1 month of supply, which is super hot, super fast, meaning that everything will move within a month if no new listings came to the market. The same amount of buyers were in the market. It's a very, very intense market. The benchmark price, which is super interesting, on our average is $721. You've got a high of $915, a low of $499. I'm kind of shocked actually to see Calgary East not hitting 500,000 yet. Once we do, next month, guaranteed, we will have broken a record. And that is pretty crazy for Calgary, because the eastern quadrant of the city has always been around like 350, 380, 400, right? To see it at 500,000 is pretty wild. Year over year price growth, again, you can see 25% for East Calgary, month over month. And now I'm going to relay this now, or reveal this now. You can see that every single quadrant is seeing an increase. The largest increases were in Calgary Northwest, Calgary West, as well as Calgary Southeast, all seeing massive, massive 1 month increases for the benchmark price, which is pretty wild. And if you look at Calgary West, you can even see the month before that, they saw a $32,000 increase. So in 2 months, Calgary West saw a roughly $55,000, $57,000 increase for their benchmark price, which is pretty crazy to say. So it is super important that you realize what market you're getting into, okay? I'm not trying to instill fear, and I really want to make that, because I see a lot of people on YouTube saying now's the time to buy, now's the time to sell, now do this, now do that. No, do your research, make sure it fits in your personal situation, and if you're gonna get in the market, you wanna make sure that you know what you're getting into, okay? Now is not the best time to purchase, but if you're moving to Calgary and you wanna buy a house, then buy a house. Just make sure that you understand what you're getting into, know your interest rate, know your mortgage, know what your 5, 10, 20-year plan is, and think about that, because if you are gonna place an unconditional offer or an aggressive offer, then you wanna make sure that you're fully confident and aware of the community it's surrounding, its schools, its amenities, its highways, its access to things, its LRT stations, its transit, all of these things, right? It's super, super important that people just realize what they're doing, right? I want to be able to bring as much value to those people as possible. Now, where is the market going to go? I talk about this every single month. Unfortunately for you buyers out there, it's probably going to increase pretty rapidly in 2024. I don't think we're going to see a lot of slowdown in this market. If the rates actually drop, I would argue that Calgary is going to see an increase in price. If they continue to increase in rates, and I highly doubt that's going to happen, we might see a little bit of a cool down. So I would imagine Calgary is going to see an increase all throughout 2024. So again, super important that you realize what you're getting into, why you're getting into it, what is the product that's in, like, kind of on the other end of the transaction, and making sure that you're super confident in getting into that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. What are we at? Almost about 16 minutes of my rant. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to comment below. I've been a little bit longer in my replies. I apologize. If you have a direct question, email me. I'm more than happy to share my thoughts with you and send a video and explain to you a lot more things in a lot more detail. So my name's Adam Fyfe. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.